Welcome to the Sports on Tap NEO High School Football Show. Be sure to join the conversation by liking us on Facebook and following us on Twitter at SOT Podcast. Use the hashtag SOTHSF. Here are your hosts, Rob Trump, Josh Jeffy, Ed Dick, and Sean Duffy.
Welcome, everybody, to Sports on Tap. It's our Ohio High School football coverage, playoff game recaps here on Sports on Tap. I want to thank you all for joining us. I'm Rob Trautman. We have Ed Dick, Sean Duffy, Josh Jeffy live here from Studio J. And, guys, another week in the books, and teams have punched their ticket into the regional finals. And it's been an interesting week, to say the least. Some really good football games, some high scores. I think we're seeing, obviously, some good production on the offensive side of the ball, and some of our teams have been eliminated, and a few remain, let's say. But, guys, how's the week going so far? How's your Monday going? Guys ready to give these recaps? What was fun watching these games last week?
I had a good day today, working for the government. I had off today, so it was nice.
I agree.
Must be nice.
I had a very good day as well, being a banker, bank holiday.
And my fantasy team did really well this weekend.
Mine too.
I took the day off, and not gonna lie, not looking too good for me. I know this.
We're gonna have to reevaluate some things.
Oh, I had to I thought I had to reevaluate it last week until, and even better after the Thursday game, but things did not work out well for me.
Got scary.
You'll have that.
Friday was not a good day for me.
It's all right. You know what? I'll Tristan Thompson it. I'm still the defending champion until someone takes it from me. So until I don't make the playoffs or until I'm knocked out, I still got the belt.
Well, there's still games left.
That's a great way. That's a great positive way to look at it.
Yeah, that's it. Sean's still thinking the same thing, and he hasn't had the belt for over a year now. So.
18 months I haven't had the belt. Still believe myself as a champion.
I'll bring it next time and remind you, but that's fine. I was trying to hold. I was holding
Do
off.
all you can, my friend.
I was holding off on that for a little bit, but
that's fine.
I mean, if we say we were champions years ago, I mean, I was two-time champion.
That's like the Browns championships before the Super Bowl era.
Oh, that's my point to you. You won what, 3 years ago? I mean,
I won 2 years ago.
Okay, 2 years ago, past. We're talking now, bro.
Okay.
All right, let's get into high school football.
Okay.
And the regional finals, some teams have punched their ticket. Josh, how did the Greater Cleveland Conference look for you? I know there are a few teams. You have Menor.
We still had two teams.
Nice game, and also Euclid.
Yeah, we will start actually with the Euclid Panthers. They actually traveled to Parma Byers Field, and they took on the 7th-ranked in the region, the St. Edward's Eagles. And this game was back and forth pretty much the whole first half of the game until late. Then St. Edward's just kind of stacked it on. The snow was coming down, so they really put an emphasis on running the ball, and run the ball they did. St. Ed's was led by running back Jordan Castleberry. He had 26 rushes in this game for 196 yards and 2 touchdowns. And he also added 110 yards receiving and a touchdown. Quarterback Garrett DeZuros, he had 18 rushes in this game for 103 yards, 2 touchdowns. Passing-wise, he was 9 for 16, 264 yards, and 3 TDs. Now, where the difference in this game was, as I mentioned, was back and forth. Euclid was really bitten by the turnover bug in this game. They had 5 turnovers. That actually went against them in this one. But they still put up some offensive numbers. Running back and Michigan State recruit Brandon Wright finished his Euclid career with 16 carries, 117 yards, and a touchdown in this one. Wide receiver Titus Jackson had 3 receptions, 98 yards, 2 touchdowns. And quarterback Deion Valentine had 176 yards passing and 3 touchdowns in this game. But it was just not enough. St. Ed's went on to a 56-35 victory over Euclid. Euclid's season is unfortunately done, but it was very successful for them. St. Ed's would wait for the winner of the next game that I have on the docket, and they will face in a Week 1 regular season rematch. They will face the Menor Cardinals, the GCC representative, as they defeated Canton McKinley 36-6 Mentor's first drive of the game, they got points on there. It was a 41-yard field goal by Connor McIntosh. And then on their second possession, Canton McKinley scored their only points of the game. It was a 14-play, 76-yard drive. Lemire Garrett scored the touchdown for Canton McKinley. The extra point was no good. After that touchdown, it was 6-3. Then Mentor would rattle off 33 unanswered points. And as we kind of mentioned in the St. Ed's game, it was all about the running game because it was snowy, it was cold, not very conducive for passing, especially when it came to a Mentor. So they went with their running game. Running backs, Brian Trobel, 13 rushes in this game, 75 yards, 2 touchdowns. Varney Spansel had 14 rushes for 76 yards and 2 touchdowns. And quarterback Ian Kipp rushed for over 100 yards, and he also had a touchdown. Mentor really put the nail into the coffin in this game. The end of the third quarter, going into the fourth quarter, they orchestrated a 19-play, 90-yard drive that resulted in the touchdown that would pretty much have the game going to a running clock for the rest of it. And that they scored that touchdown with a little over 11 minutes left in the game. So they go on to a 36.
It's getting choked up, folks.
36-6 victory over at Brunswick Automart Stadium.
Thank you, Ed. Appreciate that. You know, I am getting a little choked up because, men are representing real well here, as they have all year for the GCC. Like I mentioned, they will actually play host to Lakewood St. Ed, playing host to Mentor's, the number 1 ranked team in the region. St. Edward's is the number 7 ranked, and this game will be played at Euclid High School. And once again, this is a rematch of a Week 1 matchup that saw Mentor come away with a 42-39 victory as the 2018 season got underway.
That's going to be a great game to watch with Mentor and St. Ed's. And I think, like you said, you saw them earlier in the season, and that was a back-and-forth, high-scoring game. So I expect probably this to be, somewhat of the same this time around. Yeah.
I mean, you have 2 very evenly matched teams here. Both can run the ball. Both can, I shouldn't say stop each other because they weren't able to do that really in the first game. This could really be. This can be one of those games where it depends on who has the ball last.
True.
And that they can go down and make that last play or make that last drive. Excuse me. With a. The thing that one of the things we talked about last week, Sean, was the fact that in the game a couple of years ago between Eds and Euclid, and a key to that game was, can Euclid turn St. Ed's over and create extra possessions for themselves? Unfortunately, the complete opposite happened. They turned the ball over 5 more times and gave St. Ed's 5 more possessions. And that's just you can't do that against a team of the caliber of St. Ed's.
Yeah, I mean, St. Edward's is too good of a team to give extra opportunities to. And you're exactly right, Ed. They needed to stem that tide and not have that happen. And, again, the complete opposite actually occurred in this game, and that's unfortunate. But nothing to hang your heads against, Euclid. I mean, you played a great season, and unfortunately, like I said, those mistakes happen, but unfortunately they happen to you. But yeah, nothing to take away from Euclid. Great season. Finishing the year, I believe 9-2 overall, and really did it. Showed out well for the GCC. I look forward to this game because it's kind of like Lakewood is on a revenge tour a little bit. I mean, they lose to St. Ignatius last game of the season. They play them first round in the playoffs, beat them. They play Euclid. They get their Euclid. Now they get an opportunity to revenge a loss from earlier in the year against Mentor. And again, what do we always say? It's in this region and in these playoffs, we see these teams kind of meet up again. The cream rises to the top, as Macho Man used to say. But we see it now in this that the opportunity is there. You have tape, not just tape from another team, but your tape that you can go back to and say, here are the mistakes we had in week 2 or whatever, and we could fix them. But now we have to make sure that we're executing better, and I think Lakewood's done that a very good job with that all year, especially throughout this playoff run.
I think a key here too is Mentor was able to recover a couple of pooch onside kicks against Ken McKinley. McKinley has shown themselves to be susceptible to those types of plays. I I did execute one of those myself against them in 2001. Did the old dribble to I didn't recover it, but the guy next to me recovered it. Frank Knoll, if you're listening, there you go. Shout out there. But that won't be that's something that Menor won't be able to get away with St. Ed's. I mean, they've seen each other too many times, and I think there's enough scouting there to be able to sniff that out. And Menor, to their credit, is very, very good at it. They did it to us in a JV game, and it was perfect, exactly what they did. And sometimes you just have to tip your hat out. You tip your cap and say, "Hey, well played." They executed it well. I think this will be a game played on the ground a lot. We'll see if each other's rushing attacks can nullify each other, and who can step up and make the big play on defense to give your team an extra possession and then take that away from your opponent.
Now, we mentioned earlier that this game could come down to whoever has the ball last. Do you see it being more of a high-scoring affair, or more of a traditional defensive battle, where a chess match, so to speak, where each team has a counter move for every move the other team makes?
Well, it's hard to tell now because you're like deep in the playoffs now, so anything goes. And looking at the early forecast, I don't think weather's going to be a real big problem. It's just going to be cold, which may add to the ball being a little slippery. But both of these teams have dynamic offenses and have the ability to pass the ball. As we looked at these two games, St. Ed's had some success passing the ball where weather played a role, especially in the Menor game, and they went with the three-headed horse of ground and pound, basically, and that's what they did. So I guess we'll get an early feel how the game goes, it's going to be interesting. I really can't say whether I know for sure.
I think a lot of, the weather could have a factor, but I think a lot of these offenses are still going to put up points. I mean, they're going to make a lot of changes, but, I mean, these are pretty good passing offenses. They can run the football. They can do a lot of different things and score in a lot of different ways. I see them both putting up a lot of points. I think it's going to be another close game. Like I said, at this point in the playoffs, almost every team is going to be fundamentally sound and technique-wise, they're very good. I mean, you're not going to have teams that are going to make too many mistakes. Euclid turned the ball over, but they did still score a lot of points against St. Edward. If they don't turn the ball over a few times there, I think we might have looked at a little bit different of a game. But that's costly, in the playoffs. When you get this deep and turn the ball over, you're going to make them pay. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens here.
And like Ed said, these two teams have seen each other a lot. For not being in a conference together. They've seen each other a lot over the past few years. So not to be cliche, but it's going to come down to execution. It's going to be who can limit mistakes on the offensive end and as far as turnovers and penalties. Both of these teams are well coached, so penalties usually aren't an issue. But it's going to come down to who can execute better and what team can make the big play that can maybe turn the game.
And the last thing I'll say about about the Region 1 is Euclid. The last couple of years has, they're getting close. They're getting closer to where they want to be. Right now, they took a step forward this year by beating Menor in conference play. However, they did lose to the parochial schools again. That's the next step that Euclid needs to take as a program to get to where they want to be. Unfortunately, winning the GCC is a tremendous accomplishment. You will have won one of the toughest public school conferences in the state of Ohio. However, once you get the regional play, you got those two monsters out there in Eds and Ignatius that that not too many teams have been able to take down. Fortunately for the GCC, Menor seems to have that formula last couple of years, and we'll see if that holds true again this year for Euclid. And Coach Roski will be the first one to tell you this. That's who they need to do. That's what they need to do next. They need to continue to do well in conference play, and then when they get a shot at the big boys, they need to take advantage of it. They gave them a good fight for this one. It was, as you said, Josh, very close game going into the fourth quarter. Unfortunately, there was just too much firepower and too many mistakes for Euclid to overcome there.
Yeah, and Euclid's 3 losses this year were to Ignatius, Menor, and they lost to St. Edward in the playoffs. So only 3 losses against pretty darn good teams. So they had a great season, and congratulations to them. And good luck to the teams moving forward in the regional final there. All right, now let's move on to Division II Region 6, which had the number 1 Toledo Central Catholic Irish. They're 11-0 going against the number 4 seed, the Avon Lake Shoremen. They're 10-1, and I tell you what, they have been looking very impressive so far this season, and they wanted to continue what they had, and which was already a good season, where Toledo Central Catholic, they wanted to stay undefeated, and they're a powerhouse in D2 Region 6. We'll move right to the second quarter with 3:51 left. It was fullback Griffin Lydiard. He would score to cut the Irish's lead to 14-10. The Shoremen, they were down a little bit in this one, but they kept it close until the Irish answered Lydiard's touchdown score with a 57-yard touchdown run by Jace Bowen. He made it 21-10 with 3:24 left in the half. In Avon Lake, they threw 2 incompletions, and that would be costly because it would stop the clock. And on the next possession, Avon Lake, they went 3 and out. Toledo Central Catholic was able to add another touchdown. So they would add a touchdown after the 2 incompletions that would stop the clock, and then they would score again on a 32-yard touchdown pass from Troy Durden to Michael Griffin. They all of a sudden jumped out to a 28-10 lead right before the half. And I know Coach Kostelnik said that was a mistake that he made there by passing it twice and leaving them a bunch of time on the clock where they could score twice before half, because Avon Lake, they had it kind of in their court there where they were down 21-10 but had the ball and could establish a nice drive, and they never could get it going after those 2 incompletions. So they fell behind 28-10. And that really distanced the game. And Avon Lake, they could never really get back into this game. The only second-half score came on a Connor Riggs touchdown run. The 2-point conversion was no good. Toledo Central Catholic, they advanced to the regional finals with a 56-16 win over the Shoremen of Avon Lake. The Shoremen end their season with a 10-2 record as Toledo Central Catholic. They improve and stay undefeated at 12-0 here. And, you look at Toledo Central Catholic in this game, which is surprising. They threw 3 passes in this game, 1 for a touchdown, and they rushed against the Avon Lake defense, 539 yards in the game. Some stats for Avon Lake. Connor Riggs, he finishes the season at 28 rushes, 79 yards, and a touchdown in this game. And Jack Miklish, the quarterback, was 9 of 24 for 148 yards and a touchdown. Great job by the Avon Lake Shoremen to really turn the program and kind of turn it by making into the playoffs. Coach Kostelnik really trying to get these guys back on track and into the winning ways, and I think he did that this year by making the playoffs and advancing past the first round. So congratulations to them as, again, they lose 56-16, and Toledo Central Catholic will play the winner of our next game, which is the number 2 White House Anthony Wayne Spartans. They were 11-0 against the number 3 Avon Eagles at 10-1. And Avon, they look to get back to the regional finals where they White House Anthony Wayne trying to stay undefeated in this game. And we go right to halftime where Avon, they led 14-7 in this game, but Nick Parasek, the running back, he fumbled that led to Jacob Newmeyer's 2-yard touchdown run. That tied the game early in the third quarter. But then on the ensuing kickoff, it was running back Nick Pirasek. He entered this game with 1,181 yards rushing despite missing 5 games with an ankle injury. And in this game, he did appear to injure his right foot, so he actually took a seat the rest of the game in the third quarter and throughout the rest of the game. In the third quarter, it belonged to the Generals, who would score 2 more times in the third quarter on touchdowns, one on 72-yard Mason Albert's reception, and another on a 5-yard running back Jacob Newmeyer run to take a 28-14 lead late into the third quarter. Avon, though, they wouldn't give up in this game as the Generals really couldn't hold down the Avon offense as quarterback Ryan Malloy would set up a touchdown on a 64-yard run to the Generals' 1-yard line, and then he would score. In the fourth, though, he tied the game on an 18-yard touchdown run with 4:42 left, and quarterback Ryan Malloy, he really anchored that offense once Parasek left. The Eagles would force a punt by the Generals on the next possession. And Avon, they did get the ball back on their own 13. 5 plays later, it was running back Mark Steinmetz as he broke through and hit a 51-yard run. And that was a deciding score for him, as Steinmetz had a great game as well. In White House, Anthony Wayne, they would drive and have one more chance late to tie the game. A pass in the end zone was actually broken up and batted down by quarterback Ryan Malloy, as Avon escapes and advances to the regional finals with a 35-28 win over White House Anthony Wayne. The Generals lose their first game, ending their season with an 11-1 record as Avon advances and improves to 11-1. The Eagles, they had 415 yards rushing in this game, and Mark Steinmetz had 162 yards and a touchdown on 18 carries. Ryan Malloy, it was a running affair there with Avon. He had 20 rushes, 158 yards and 3 touchdowns. And Nick Perisek had 16 rushes, 95 yards and a touchdown. Ryan Malloy also threw for 115 yards. And the Generals, they're mostly a passing team, as quarterback Max Denman, he threw for 290 yards and a touchdown. As for Anthony Wayne, it was Mason Alberts. He had 12 receptions for 182 yards. As, again, Avon escapes with a 35-28 win, and they will face the number 1 seed, Toledo Central Catholic. And that should be a really good game. Avon, they're going to have their hands full, as Toledo Central Catholic has been pretty dominant this year. But, again, Avon's been there, and Coach Eller does a great job with the Eagles offensively and defensively. As the season has really went along, they lost to Avon Lake, and you wondered how the team would really recoup. And I think there's almost no doubt that Coach Elder probably wouldn't let his team slip. And they continue to get stronger as the year has gone along.
Yeah, agreed. And last year Avon ran, and when they got they got to this point last year, they were able to defeat Olmsted Falls to win the region, and then they lost to eventual state champion Archbishop Hoban. So they're going to play another powerhouse in Toledo Central Catholic. We'll see if they're able to get over the hump. First off, hopefully Perisek gets healthy enough and is able to partake in this game, because that's going to be a big, instead of 2 offensive threats that Central Catholic would need to worry about, it would be at least 3. So that's going to be a big key to look for as the week progresses. The health of Perisek there. And for Avon, can they stop the run? I mean, if Central Catholic only threw the ball 3 times and they're still able to pile up over almost 600 yards of offense, there's something there that Avon needs to be able to do to stop that run.
No, you hit it on the head there.
You also have to be careful in how you maybe view this last game. It may have just been that they, were focused so much on Anthony Wayne's ability to pass the ball that they gave up the run, and maybe said, okay, beat us with the run, and that's pretty much. I mean, we just don't. Unfortunately, we don't know the game plan. It could have been that way. I think Avon is placed, even without Perisek, I think they're placed well to compete very well against Toledo Central Catholic. I think they're a team that, has had a lot of obstacles thrown at them. The loss to Avon Lakes in the second week of the season. Perisek's been hurt a lot over the season. I mean, you said himself, he's got 1,100 yards in missing 5 games.
Yeah.
I mean, that's half the season. So him being out is not, while it hurts, certainly, it's not something they're not used to, and they haven't had to overcome all year. I agree with you, Ed. If they have the opportunity to have him back, along with Steinmetz and along with Ryan Malloy throwing the ball, offensively they're very good. Defensively, they need to clean some things up, because you're right. If I'm a coach looking at the statistics, I'm thinking, hey, we can run on this team. And if you can run on a team effectively, you control the pace of the game, you control the clock, and you control how many opportunities the opposing offense has to score points. And I think that's where you can that's where Avon is most vulnerable. If Toledo Central Catholic is able to control the pace of the game in their favor, it basically benches not just 1 or 2, it benches the entire opportunity of Avon to score points and make this a shootout. I think this game has more potential to be a shootout than any other of the games that I'm looking forward to this week, because both of these offenses have put up serious points all year. Both of these offenses have the opportunity to do so either through the air or on the ground. I think Avon may pull this one out, because I'm pulling for Northeast Ohio. I don't like Toledo teams, but I think Avon pulls this one out, but I think it's close, and I think this is more of a who has the ball last and who wins the game.
something else to consider here is Central Catholic they did make a jump from Division III to Division II this year. So they will be playing a team that is that has been used to Division II ball for quite a while. I'm not sure how much that really is going to play into effect here, but this is a matchup that you don't see very often between Avon and Toledo Central Catholic. So, lots of scouting, lots of execution that needs to happen on both of these fronts here.
Well, Ed, I had a question. Just wanted your opinion on this because you're in the coaching ranks and you've played in these playoff games and coached in them. The game Anthony Wayne and Avon was played at Clyde High School, Bob Bishop Stadium. That is where the game this week is going to be played again. Do you think, and just looking at all the avenues, that could play somewhat of an advantage for Avon because that's the second week that they've played there, and in these playoffs, it's not very common to have kind of a little bit of normalcy because after that first week, if you do have home field, then you're on a neutral site. But for Avon, they've actually the second week in a row they've played at the same stadium, so I don't know if that could be helpful for them. Just kind of going things at ease and kind of like at a pace.
It's definitely familiar ground. They will be the visiting team again, so literally nothing's going to change for them. They'll have the same uniforms, they'll have the same drive there, they'll be in the same locker room. They do have a little bit of the lay of the land already, but quite honestly, I'm not sure how much that is a big factor into it. I do remember in 2007, we played North Canton Hoover at Byers Field for the Region 2 championship. We won that game, had to come back and play Menor in the state semifinals, and that didn't go as well as we wanted it to. So I don't think the venue, as far as like neutral sites, plays a major difference into it. I could see the only thing I could see that would be if the team prior in the previous week had to play on a different field, like literally different field, like grass or turf.
Gotcha.
If you have that, if you're going from one surface to another, that could be a difference there. That could potentially be a factor. But yeah, I think these two teams are so talented that it doesn't matter one way or the other in this instance.
It's just going to be a good football game.
Absolutely.
One of the questions I've always had is does the OHSAA, I don't know if they take it like if they Google map it and say what's the equidistance between the two schools. Is that how I guess my point is that when they take that into account as to the fact that to just get away from any sort of look of favorability towards one team, they should not have selected Clyde High School as this regional final because of the fact that the team that just won there played there the week before in the semifinals. Now, I played in the Dayton area, and all of the regional finals are always played at Dayton Welcome Stadium. No matter where they are, all those regional finals have Dayton teams involved, usually are at Welcome Stadium. Some of the Cincinnati teams as well if they're playing a Toledo team. So I understand that maybe Clyde High School operates as like a point of reference for a lot of teams, but I think just to make sure there's no sense of, because you don't want to hear coaches belly aching. You don't want to hear. I mean, they're going to look for any edge, and it may not be a big factor. But if all things being equal, the team that played there last year is comfortable. They know the lay of the land. It's not all brand new to them, like it will be for Toledo Central Catholic. I mean, again, it's not brand new the sense, but I'm saying like just if everything, like you don't want to give a competitive advantage to any team, and you want to make sure that. I would say you want to make sure that Toledo Central Catholic and Avon both have to go to a neutral site that they've never been to and have to figure out, logistics. Whereas you take that kind of pain in the neck off of this because for Avon a little bit because you've already been there. The same drive, the same locker room, everything's the same. It's for lack of a better word, home away from home a little bit for them. I've always wondered what goes into that selecting those sites. If it's just the literally. Here's the midpoint. Where's the nearest high school that can fill a stadium?
It's a couple factors. The distance, equidistance is a major part of it, but you also need to make sure that a field is available, and B, it's hospitable to host a game of that magnitude. Like St. Ignatius and St. Ed's love Buckeye. They'll never play there.
Yeah.
So even if they were equidistant apart, that game would never happen there because that stadium just isn't big enough to hold that. That's why. St. Ed's or St. Let's take the look at Euclid and St. Ed's. St. Ed's played at Byers the previous week.
Mm-hmm.
They played at Byers again this week. kind of surprised they're not playing the Buyers this week, to be honest with you. But, I mean, given the fact that, they're playing at Euclid, Mentor has played at Euclid, that's they obviously don't take into account how many times the team has played there. I mean, to them it doesn't matter. It's equidistant and availability, and is that field and that stadium going to be well enough to hold that type of a game?
Makes sense.
Yeah, well, we'll see how it works out for Toledo Central Catholic. Their one common denominator is they both have played Avon Lake this year. So Avon
but only one of
losing.
them has beat them.
That's right. So we'll see what happens this coming up week in the regional finals for Avon as they take on Toledo Central Catholic. We'll take a break now, and when we come back, Wadsworth was in action along with Buckeyes. They played their round 2 games. How do they fare? We'll Ed and Sean will talk about that. We'll also give you some other details on playoff matchups as we look ahead right here on Sports on Tap. Don't go anywhere. We're coming right back.
Listen to our shows live on Mixer or join us the first Monday of every month at Z's Cream and Bean, located at 2706 Boston Road in Hinckley. Want to listen to past shows? Go to our YouTube page or website, www.sportsontappodcast.com.
SportsOnTapPodcast.com, the place to go where you can listen to past shows, read featured articles, check out all of our social media updates, plus much, much more. SportsOnTapPodcast.com, the official website of Sports on Tap.
For up-to-the-minute info on local high school sports action, including photos, videos, and live updates, be sure to follow Sports on Tap on Twitter, Instagram, and like us on Facebook.
RRT Productions, specializing in creating sports recruiting videos for all high school athletes. Want to play at the next level? Promote your talents with a video to send colleges. Affordable, experienced, and a high-quality video. Make us your local video production company. Visit our website, rrt-productions.com, and contact us today. RRT Productions, we shoot, we edit, you win. Listen to our shows live on Mixer or join us the first Monday of every month at Z's Cream and Bean, located at 2706 Boston Road in Hinckley. Want to listen to past shows? Go to our YouTube page or website, www.sportsontappodcast.com.
SportsOnTapPodcast.com, the place to go where you can listen to past shows, read featured articles, check out all of our social media updates, plus much, much more. SportsOnTapPodcast.com, the official website of Sports on Tap.
For up-to-the-minute info on local high school sports action, including photos, videos, and live updates, be sure to follow Sports on Tap on Twitter, Instagram, and like us on Facebook.
Welcome back to Sports on Tap. I'm your host, Rob Trump. We have Ed, Dick, Sean, Duffy, Josh, Jeffy. It's our high school football playoff game recaps. You can follow us at SOT Podcast on Twitter. We're also on Facebook, or go to our website, sportsontappodcast.com, to see more. Our YouTube page archives all of these shows and interviews from early on this season. NEO Sports Insiders also has a lot of good high school football coverage, along with other sports topics as well, and you can go there for some great info as well. We're on Instagram as well. We're all over the place. So, but without further ado, we'll get into other high school playoff matchups coming up, and also Wadsworth and Buckeye still in
Buckeye
the
recap.
That's right.
That was all me.
Yeah, let's keep the hot mic down there. Hot mic.
Man, getting
Wow.
excited over there,
Sorry.
Ed. Well,
Yeah.
Ed, if you can hear
Well,
me.
this is Sean.
Yeah, I was
And we're
saying-
going to Ed.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, and I wanted to say, Ed, if you can still hear me now that his ears are completely blown out.
Well, I don't need to hear myself, unlike some people here who are talking about their fantasy football.
There's a reason they
Dreams
call it
that-
fantasy football.
Exactly.
You know what? It sounds like sour grapes on that side of the room right now.
Do you want? I think Sean.
Sounds like the defending champion is still the defending champion until, yes, you took me down in the
Twice.
regular season.
Twice.
Okay, that doesn't matter.
I took him down last year twice too in the regular season.
Yeah, just make sure I don't make the playoffs. You did a good job of
Don't
doing
worry.
You did
I
your part.
I did my part
You
this
did your
week.
part.
I did my
Done.
part this week.
Well, you only do it twice. Not everyone else can do that.
Okay.
All right. Division 2, Region 5. We'll start there real quick here before we get into the recaps. This is Norgiorno did partake in this region earlier in the playoffs. However, they were eliminated by Painesville Riverside. So we'll start quickly with the three-time defending champion, both Division 2 and Division 3, Akron Archbishop Hoban taking on Garfield Heights. A tremendous season so far for Garfield Heights. However, it came to a crashing halt. 41-7 victory for the Knights over the Bulldogs. The vaunted defense at Garfield Heights has been sporting for the entire season. Unfortunately, no match for the steamroller that is Archbishop Hoban. They are the number one ranked team in Division 2. They are also the number one ranked team in this region. They will travel to Twinsburg Tiger Stadium in their Division 2 Region 5 championship. Their opponent, the winner of undefeated Lake Erie League champion Maple Heights and Painesville Riverside co-champion or tri-champions of the Western Reserve Conference, Maple Heights comes away with a 44-14 victory over the Beavers. The Mustangs are also 12-0, led by 2010 state champion quarterback and University of Cincinnati all-time leading receiver Shaq Washington. This will be that game will take place next Friday night, 7 o'clock from Twinsburg Tiger Stadium. Number 1, Archbishop Hoban, 12-0, versus number 2, Maple Heights, also 12-0. We will go to Division II, Region 7. First off, Massillon, otherwise known as the Massillon. They took on Whitehall Yearling. This game did take place at Mansfield Arlen Field. A 35-17 victory for the Tigers. They are 12-0. They will advance to North Canton Hoover High School to take on the winner of Wadsworth, the two-time defending Suburban League National Division champions. They took on Dresden Tri-Valley, a very, very tough smash-mouth team in their own right. Somehow was able to shut out Barberton last week. And they sure as hell gave it their best shot against Wadsworth this week. This was so we have a highly anticipated affair between a high-powered offense and a stellar physical defense. An additional milestone for Wadsworth was on the line, a school record 12th win in one single season. This had a similar feel to last year's regional semifinal contest between the Grizzlies and Olmsted Falls with cold, inclement weather. Wadsworth's defense was up to the task after Scotty's kicker, Katie Bay, connected on a 23-yard field goal in the first half. Wadsworth kept knocking on the door, but they could not cash in on multiple opportunities. Several drives stalled on fourth down. The Scotties led to 3-0 until linebacker Mason McMillan, he stepped in on offense and spelled both Brock Snowball and Dom Laparo. He hit pay dirt from 6 yards out, giving the Grizzlies a 6-3 lead going into the fourth. Defense was able to get the ball back, and quarterback Trey Schaefer found Tyler Montgomery in the end zone for a 9-yard touchdown pass and an insurmountable 13-3 lead at the time. Wadsworth forced another turnover on downs, and then they forced a fumble. They hung on for a very, very hard-fought 13-3 victory over the Scotties of Dresden Tri-Valley. Trey Schaefer completed 17 of 29 passes for 198 yards and a touchdown. Dom Laparo, he had 22 rushes for 109 yards. The Scotties earned just 186 yards on offense as McMillan, Jake Herbert, and Alec Miller from the Grizzlies defense all partook in the turnover party. Fantastic season for Dresden Tri-Valley. They are attempting to get back to the state title game. They finished their season at 10-2. This edition of Wadsworth football set the school record for wins in a season with 12 wins and counting. They advanced to the Division II Region 7 championship game. They will face the defending regional champion, number 1 seed, and undefeated Massillon Washington Tigers. As we mentioned earlier, Massillon was a 35-17 winner over Whitehall Yearling. This game will be played Friday, November 16th at 7 p.m. for North Canton Hoovers Memorial Stadium. So we'll see what happens here. Wadsworth is now in uncharted territory, undefeated after 12 wins. They do face a team that had made it to I believe the state championship last year before bowing out. So Massillon has strung together a couple of very, very good seasons here in the last couple of years, and we'll see if they won the region last year and lost to Winton Woods. My apologies. So Massillon is the defending regional champion. So they've been here before. Coach Justin Todd does have a really good pedigree, having come from Mount Union, been a part of a lot of big games as a player there. And we'll see if he can get. So we'll see if Brock Snowball is healthy. He got banged up a little bit and had to take some plays off. They needed to use him as they needed to. I'm not sure they're going to have that luxury against a very, very tough Massillon team. Who we've a couple of years ago we fouled them quite efficiently. But we'll see what happens in this game. I don't have a whole lot on the books for Massillon. I do know what we have in Wadsworth. They have a really good quarterback and a really good team. Overall, their team is obviously a little bit stronger than they were last year. They had one transcendent player in Joey Boffman. However, he could not play. He couldn't play defense, and he wasn't. Not that he couldn't, but he didn't. This team's defense has continually stepped up to the occasion, and they've kept them in games that maybe they shouldn't be kept in. So. Congratulations to the Grizzlies. Good luck this week against the Massillon Tigers. I will kick it over now to, despite all the trash talking, he is still my compadre, my colleague, my cohort. He will have the Buckeye recap.
You know what that sound means, ladies and gentlemen.
Sean Duffy.
It's time for the Medina Buckeye Playoff Recap. Rob, Buckeye Recap coming right at you. Buckeye in our uncharted territory.
Buckeye recap on table. Buckeye recap still on the table.
Still on the table. Buckeye found its.
I was waiting for that.
Every time he does it, I love it. Buckeye found itself in uncharted territory for the first time in school history, starting its longest season in school history as they took on Kenston in the semifinals of the Division III Region 9 playoffs. The game was tight early on as both teams scored in the first quarter and ended the quarter tied 7-7. But then Kenston turned on the afterburners as they were able to make the score 26-7 at halftime. They would then add 2 more touchdowns after halftime in the third quarter to take a 40-7 lead midway through the third quarter, and it was running clock time from there. Unfortunately, the Buckeye Bucks are not a team that's built to come back from a large deficit quickly. They did have a touchdown scored by Jacob Durkee in the first quarter, a 3-yard run, and Dom Monaco finished the game with 2 touchdowns on 15 carries for 63 yards on the night. But unfortunately, Kenston was able to kind of take advantage of this game and put it away pretty early in the second half. As I mentioned, it was a running clock. But you know what? This was one of those situations where Medina Buckeye may have kind of got over that hump and had a little bit of a hangover the next week. They're up in class a little bit. They're in a place they're in a situation they never played in before. They're not used to playing at neutral sites. In fact, I think anytime they played in the playoffs, they were playing on another team's home turf or their own. So this was new experience for them. But to take nothing away from this Buckeye team who had to overcome adversity, and again, all these seniors and can hang their hat on one thing that no senior at Medina Buckeye's ever done. That's win a playoff game. They're in the second round of the playoffs. Now Coach Dennison has the opportunity to build on that with kids like Armando Nye, who's a junior coming back. You have some other kids that were playing and getting some serious playing time towards the end of the year. Again, their situation gets a little interesting because they're now going not only up in the league but up in class. You're playing teams like Bay. You're playing teams like Rocky River. You're playing teams like Fairview. These are teams that are used to playing each other, and now you're no longer going to rely on getting those wins from Keystone or whoever else who may be the lower end of the Pac-12. I think Buckeye has set themselves up for the future here. Congratulations to Buckeye. They won their first playoff game in school history. They had the longest season in school history, but unfortunately, Kenston, who was led by their quarterback, this is the hardest name I've had to do, John Tom Sufik, who had yes, he finished 11 for 15 for 185 yards and 3 touchdowns. They also had their running back, Jack Porter, had 25 carries and 132 yards and a touchdown on the night. Kenston was firing on all cylinders. At one point, they converted 8 straight third down attempts. Defensively, they just had the number of the Buckeye Bucks. They were able to really get over, especially passing. They were able to, by all accounts, to get up and get vertical, which, again, Medina Buckeye is not a team that can come back from a large deficit quickly. They're a methodical team. They plod down the field. They score. They run the ball. They chew a lot of clock. Unfortunately, in this case, they got down. They made some mistakes on defense, and they got down quickly, and they weren't able to recover. But congratulations on a great scene to the Medina Bucks. And, that's the way the cookie crumbles.
Medina, as you said earlier, they ran into a powerhouse here in Kenston. Kenston, if you're Buckeye, I don't think there's a whole lot you can really hang your head on. I think in reading some of the articles over the weekend, there's no sadness in the fact that the season's over. Obviously, you don't want to lose, but sometimes you just know when you lose to a better team. And I think that was the case here with Kenston. They were more talented, and it wasn't a game that I don't think Buckeye thought got away from them. They were just beaten by a better team, and that's going to happen, especially when you get into the playoffs. You're going to play teams that are just better than you, and unfortunately, the talent does show on the field when that happens. So, I echo everything that you said there, Duffy, and we'll see what I'm looking forward to what they're going to do next year into their new conference, where they are going to be, instead of one of the bigger schools in the conference, they'll be one of the smaller schools in the conference. And we'll see how they're going to be able to compete against the Parma schools, against Bay, Rocky River.
And I mean,
trying to think of how-
Buckeye has played Rocky River, and they were pretty competitive games the last few years. But, yeah, Bay has always been at the top, it seems like there. So there's going to be some pretty good competition. Do you think
Elyria Catholic? Elyria Catholic had a very tough 1-point loss here.
Yeah,
and their regional semifinals. So lots of I think there's gonna be a lot of excitement next year going from Buckeye. A lot of the unknown, and they'll be able to see where exactly they stand and where they are at and where they need to be going forward. And I'm looking forward to seeing how that's going to progress.
Yeah, I think it's going to be pretty exciting just to find them in another conference with, a lot of really good teams. They've been pretty dominant where they've been at, and they've been successful for how many years in a row? I mean, they're always there. They have a great amount of kids come out and want to play football for their team, and I think it's going to get pretty exciting to be in a new conference and. They're going to have to play really well, and I think they can do it. They have a lot of good leaders and veterans on that team, but also a lot of good young kids that are going to be moving up. So we'll see what happens next year.
Yeah, I don't foresee Buckeye taking a big step back in that conference. If anything, I think they add to the legitimacy of that conference more so with a great coaching staff like Greg Denson's put together, with the great community support that community has for that football team and that program. The outpouring of support just for winning in their first playoff game was, by all accounts, massive. I think this allows them to, we talk a lot as Browns fans. Like I was talking with Rob on the way here to do the podcast. I said, I want to get past this where we're happy with every victory. I wanted to get it be like, okay, we go into every game expecting to win. I think Buckeye's there. Buckeye's gone into expecting to make the playoffs. Now they may have a new mindset. They expect to win in those playoffs, and I think their conference schedule creates that ability to understand what needs to be done and create that bedrock to do so. More so, I think, than the Pac-12 did for them in the playoffs. Not to take anything away from the Pac-12, I just think Buckeye simply was the class of that particular league, and they weren't tested a lot of times outside of your Columbias or your Black Rivers or, every now and then Wellington maybe came up with a good team. But it wasn't when you go into this Great Lakes Conference and you have Bay Village, you have Rocky River, you have Elyria Catholic. Those are teams that are in the playoffs. They're used to winning. They're used to being competitors, and it's not something that's a novelty to them, essentially. So I think this is a good thing for Buckeye. I think it makes sense for Buckeye. I really think that the school takes a step forward in joining this conference.
Well, yeah, they're coming to a conference that has four playoff teams.
Yeah.
Valley Forge, Rocky River, Bay, and Elyria Catholic. And
forget about Valley Forge. What a year they've had.
And now throw in Buckeye. That's 5 teams. When they become the Great Lakes Conference, next year we're talking about 5. We're talking about a conference with 5.
Wow.
Count them 5 playoff teams from 2016,
pretty good.
from 2018.
And Elyria Catholic, they've been making their way up. They had a few years where they really struggled, and this year, what a year they've had. So, like you said, that's going to be a fun conference to watch.
So that was, the final Buckeye recap? Was that the final Buckeye recap?
I think just
you know what? This is the second time I've done this to Josh, and I feel terrible. I did not give him a heads up. He didn't have his sound ready.
That's okay. Here you go.
Last Buckeye recap.
Maybe we should do one just, every week we should just do one just to say we do the Buckeye
Well,
recap.
I think that's kind of kicking a dead horse there, Rob. They lost the playoffs. I can't do a recap if they lost. Outside of saying Buckeye didn't play this week.
Not that we endorse kicking dead horses.
No. Or live ones, for that matter.
Yeah.
That's just dangerous. I don't do that.
But now that we've done all our game recaps, Ed, do you want to go through some of the other matchups and games? I know Sean, I think, has them up and ready to be read off, right?
Oh,
No, Division One. We kind of went through Division One a little bit with the number 1 seed Mentor. They'll take on the number 7 seed St. Edward Eagles.
Yes.
At Euclid Community Field. That's in D1, the Region 1 there. Region 2. A lot of people won't know these teams. Number 4, Powell Olentangy Liberty. They're 8-4. They'll take on the number 2 Dublin Kaufman. Team 11-1, and Dublin Kaufman, they've had some really good teams. That's where Brady Quinn went to high school and played, and they've had some really good football players there. Well, you should like Brady Quinn. He's a former Irish.
I didn't like him in high school. We played him in high school.
All right. Well,
Torch this.
were they the Aviators?
No,
well?
I think they're like the Wildcats or something. I don't know.
Then you look at Region 3. Number 1, Hilliard-Davidson, 11-1, takes on the number 6, Pickerington Central at 10-2. In Region 4, Cincinnati Coleraine at 12-0 this year, taking on the number 3, Cincinnati Elder at 8-4. That's in Region 4, and then we go to Division 2.
Well,
Region 5.
just real quick, very, very familiar teams in all of Division 1.
Yeah.
Pretty much the same boats. The powerhouses that are there every year are there once again.
Pickering Central is the defending Division 1 state champion in Region 3 as well.
Yeah, and they're actually it's crazy. They're 10-2 and are the number 6 seed. I mean, that probably tells you how good some of those teams are in that region.
Yep, absolutely. Going to Division 2, Region 5, Akron Archbishop Hoban, the 3-time defending state champions in both Division 3 and Division 2. They are the number 1 seed. They will take on the number 2 seed, the upstart Maple Heights Mustangs, also 12-0, led by Shaq Washington, 2010 state champion quarterback for the Mustangs. That game will be played Friday night at Twinsburg Tiger Stadium. How about Division 2, Region 6, Rob?
You have the number 1 Toledo Central Catholic Irish, 12-0, taking on the number 3 Avon Eagles at 11-1. That at Clyde Robert J. Bishop Jr. Stadium, and both those teams very almost always there. Toledo Central Catholic, a powerhouse, undefeated. That's going to be a really good game. Region 7 in Division 2.
Massillon, Washington, the number 1 seed, 12-0. They are the defending Region 7 champions. They will take on undefeated, 2-time defending the Suburban League National champion, Division champion, Wadsworth Grizzlies. They are the number 3 seed. That game will be played at North Canton Hoover High School Friday night at 7 p.m. Division 2, Region 8 down in the Cincinnati area. Cincinnati Winton Woods. They are the number 1 seed. They are the 2009 Division 2 state champions, having defeated, at the time, a junior, Shaq Washington's Maple Heights Mustangs. They will take on Cincinnati Anderson, the number 7 seed, 9-3 overall. That game will be played at Lakota West High School Friday night at 7 p.m. Sean.
In Division 3, Region 9, we have number 1 seeded Canfield after a 30-7 victory over Akron East. They will take on, as we mentioned, Chagrin Falls Kenston, the number 2 seeded team at Warren G. Harding High School, Friday night at 7 o'clock. In Division 3, Region 10, number 4 ranked Norwalk number 4 ranked Norwalk after beating Rocky River 56-7 in the semifinals, will take on number 6 seeded Sandusky in the regional finals. That will be 7 o'clock Friday night at Bellevue High School. And in Region 11, we have Columbus Eastmore Academy, number 4 seed, taking on Thornville Sheridan, 6th ranked, 11-1. That will occur Friday night at Lancaster High School, Friday night, 7 o'clock. And in Region 12, that one's close and dear to my heart, Kettering Archbishop Alter, the number 1 ranked, I can't even think of their name right now. They will take on number 2 ranked Wapakoneta Indians as those two teams won their regional semifinals. Kettering Archbishop Alter over Hamilton Baden, 13-0. Wapakoneta beating Middletown Bishop Fenwick 27-17. Those two teams play at Piqua High School Friday night, 7 p.m. for the Region 12 final in Division 3.
Wapakoneta did take out the defending Division 3 champion Trotwood Madison.
Whoa!
In the first round of Division 3 Region 12.
Yes,
certainly someone to take note there, from the Wapakoneta side. So congratulations to them. All right, we go to Division 4 Region 13. Number 5 seeded Girard. They took down the number 1 seed up here, Perry. The Perry Pirates, 42-33 at Niles McKinley High School. They will take on Hubbard, the number 3 seed. They coming off a 34-16 victory over Steubenville, a traditional Division 4 power. Huge win for Hubbard there. I do know My wife's sister's best friend, her husband, is a coach at Hubbard, coaches special teams, and amongst some of the other things there. So this is certainly no love lost between Hubbard and Girard. They're both down by the Warren, Youngstown area there. So that's going to be a fantastic game. That game will be played Saturday night, 7 p.m. at Niles McKinley High School, Division 4, Region 13. If we go to Division 4, Region 14, Bellevue Clear Fork, the number one seeded team there. They defeated a foe of I don't think Buckeye played them this year, but Lorraine Clearview of the PAC, 26-8 victory over Clearview. Belleville Clear Fork will take on the number 2 seed St. Mary's Memorial. They were a 55-20 winner over Van Wert. That game will be played Saturday night at Bellefontaine High School. 12-0 Belleville Clear Fork versus 11-1 St. Mary's Memorial. Division 4, Region 15. St. Clairsville will take on Newark-Lincoln Valley. St. Clairsville, the number 1 seed, they were a 41-14 victory over Bloom Carroll. Whereas Newark-Lincoln Valley is 9-3 overall, the number 7 seed. They were 56-36 victory over Needham Indian Valley. They were number 3 seed there. So we have a 12-0 St. Clairsville versus a 9-3 Newark-Lincoln Valley. That game will be played at Zanesville High School Saturday night at 7 p.m. Rounding out Division 4, Region 16, those playoffs, Cincinnati, Wyoming versus London, the 1 seed versus the 6 seed there. Cincinnati, Wyoming is undefeated. London is 11-1. That game will be played Saturday night at 7 o'clock at Centerville High School.
And moving on to Division 5, Region 17. We start off with Orville coming off a 3 overtime victory over Gilmore Academy to make it to the finals.
Wow.
They will take on number 2 seeded Akron Manchester, fresh off their victory in the semifinals. That will be 7 o'clock Friday night at Northwest High School, Canal Fulton. That will, again, Friday night at 7 o'clock. In Region 18 of Division 5, we have Genoa area, ranked number 1, versus Liberty Center, ranked number 2. Both of those teams, again, winning their final match. In fact, Genoa area with a 1-point victory in the semifinals over Elyria Catholic for you local fans. And Liberty Center beating Oak Harbor 14-0 in the semifinals to earn their trip to the regional final. In Division 5, Region 19, we have a matchup of Johnstown Monroe, number 1 seeded, taking on Baysville Meadowbrook. Both these teams will be playing at Maysville High School. Baysville Meadowbrook. My apologies. I read it wrong. It's Johnstown Monroe, number 1 seeded, versus Bystown Meadowbrook. That game will be played at Maysville High School.
Say that 10 times
yeah,
fast.
Thank you. Friday night at 7 p.m. And in the southern area, in the Region 20, Division 5 Region 20, we have Wheelersburg taking on Middletown Madison in another number 1 versus number 2 ranked matchup. That will be played at Friday night, 7 o'clock at Hilliard Darby High School. Moving on to Region 6. Region 6, Division 6, Region 21. Mogador will take on number 2 Kirtland after both those teams secured victories in their semifinals. Mogador beating McDonald 28-17. Kirtland beating Creston Norwayne 35-0. Kirtland will be looking to continue their great playoff run, as I believe they had a long playoff run last year, correct?
Yeah, they are perennial state contenders, either state semifinals or state finals. They've been there quite often over the last 5 years or so.
Well, good luck to both those teams. That game will be played at 7 o'clock on Friday night at Aurora High School. We are familiar with Aurora High School.
Yep, beautiful
Great
place.
press box, really good concessions. Thanks, Aurora. Division 5, Region 22 has Attica, Seneca East, number 1 ranked versus number 7 ranked Sherwood Fairview. Those two teams will play Friday night at Finlay Football Field, 7 o'clock for the Region 22 crown. Moving on, Division 6, Region 23, Shadyside, number 4 ranked Shadyside versus Beverly Fort Fry. Beverly Fort Fry is the number 2 ranked team in Division 6, Region 23. Those teams will play at Meadowbrook High School Friday night at 7 p.m. And in Division 6, Region 24, we have Coldwater versus Maria Stein, Marion Local. If this is not deja vu for all you fans in the Southern Ohio, this is pretty much the regional final almost every year. It's more storied than Cavs Warriors at this point because they always end up meeting up at the same in this frame. This is the first time I believe that both these teams are not 1 and 2. Coldwater is ranked number 1, whereas Maria Stein Marion Local is ranked number 3. Those two teams will play at Sydney High School 7 o'clock on Friday night.
All right, last and certainly not least, our Division 7 friends starting in Region 25, 10-2, Cuyahoga Heights. They are the number 1 seed. They defeated East Canton by a score of 21-6 last week. They will take on the number 7 seed, Warren John F. Kennedy, a 42-34 winner over Ashland Mapleton. Warren JFK is 7-5. They entered the playoffs with an even 5-5 record. They have made their way to the regional finals. Cuyahoga Heights, the 1 seed, Warren JFK, the 7 seed. That game will take place at Nordonia High School, specifically Bo Lyons Stadium, Saturday night at 7 p.m. Division 7, Region 26. Maybe. There we go. My fault. My apologies. Macomb, the number 5 seed. Wow. Tell you what, there's the opposite of chalk going on in this region.
Yeah.
Sycamore Mohawk was the number 1 seed. They got bounced in the first round by Leipzig. Macomb beats Leipzig 24-14. They were the number 5 seed. They will take on Edgerton, undefeated. They are the number 2 seed. They defeated Pandora Gilboa by a score of 52-8. This game will take place at Defiance High School Saturday night at 7 p.m.
In Division 7, Region 27, we have number 1 ranked Lucas taking on, Gloucester Trimble, ranked number 3. That game will be Friday night, 7 o'clock at Hamilton Township High School. Again, Friday night, 7 o'clock will be Lucas, ranked number 1, versus Gloucester Trimble.
All right, Region 28, the last region, Fort Loramie, the number 1 ranked team. They are 11-1 overall. They defeated Sidney Lehman Catholic by a score of 35-0. They will take on Convoy Crestview, a 28-14 winner over Minster. That game will take place Saturday night, 7 p.m. at Lima Spartan Stadium. The number 1 taking on the number 2, Fort Loramie at 11-1. Convoy Crestview at 11-1. Those are all of your regional finals,
That's
all
it.
28 of them. So we got a couple of teams that are in the local area that we don't particularly cover. They still have some skin in the game. So we'll continue as we see fit. But certainly good luck to the remaining teams in our schedules. The Menor Cardinals from the Greater Cleveland Conference, the Avon Eagles in the Southwestern Conference, and the Wadsworth Grizzlies in the Suburban League National Division. Unfortunately, this was the day of the last Buckeye recap.
God, you know
I gave you the
come
hand
on.
signals. This is unbelievable.
I mean,
We really need to get a soundboard.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, the sounding.
I'm sorry.
He's falling asleep at the wheel.
I'm sorry. It's my fault. I was all ready to do something else, but then this came about suddenly.
Josh is trying to think 2 steps ahead.
He's over here producing and all
right.
that
I know.
stuff.
Yeah. It's like he doesn't know what we're thinking. I don't get it. But good luck to all the local teams here and all divisions, and specifically the 3 that we've talked about. And we'll catch you guys back next week. What?
No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Dun, 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 dun.
There it is.
All right, so good luck to all the teams in your regional finals matchups, and we'll wrap it up here.
Yeah, well, guys, great job. I mean, that was great going through all the different regions. If you want to listen to this, go to our website, sportsontappodcast.com, where we will have the audio podcast archive available to listen. Go to @SOT Podcast on Twitter. Again, we're on Instagram, Facebook. and much, much more. So great job. It's been a great year so far, and hopefully we'll see a few of our teams continue to advance here.
Sounds good.
All right, for Ed Dick, Sean Duffy, Josh Jeffy, I'm Rob Troutman. Have a great week, everyone. Good luck to all the teams that play Friday and Saturday night. We'll see you soon. See ya.